Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, comedy on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And what a fascinating experience it has been to be a human animal in the last 18 months or so, trying to adapt to new times and new realities, and in what my focus is on as a journalist, which is live spiritual music, the affordability of it, the mandates related to vaccines, and some of the issues moving forward as it relates to musical expansion on the bandstand. And my guest is somebody who helped create new musical vocabulary in his own way on the bandstand, but definitely in the studios, doing a tremendous amount of live studio work. And then Steve Cropper told me he's the best overdub drummer he ever worked with. Jim Keltner, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Jim, I just wanted to put this audio clip in for you. Take a listen to it, and then we'll break it down.
Okay.
And the Holy Spirit is there all the time, but there's a little phrase I use: the chosen of God are the people who choose God. You're not chosen by some spirit on the outside that says, lo and behold, you're the one. Or you're one of the 444,000 that have been chosen. The ones who choose, the ones who say, Holy Father, I believe, I know you're there, I feel your spirit, I reach out to you. When you reach out, the Spirit reaches back. I tell people God is waiting. God's always been there. God's not going anywhere, but God is waiting. And when you open the door, the angels sing.
Mr. Kelton, you want to take a guess at who that is? He's definitely a cat you've played with, I'd say, more than a few times.
Really? Somebody I played with?
In the studios, yes.
Oh, man, I really don't. I know. Yeah. I feel like I know the voice, but I can't.
It's that was my third interview with Ernie Watts, and that
was Ernie Watts talking?
Yes.
No kidding.
The guy puts me in a meditative state just by his talking. And I wanted Ernie. You to, Keltner, I look at you as somebody who is, we are chosen ones, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that. And I wanted you to just talk about being, the responsibilities that come with being chosen to be a conduit for the music coming through you. You're not fully responsible for what you're doing to do all this amazing music.
Well, yeah, that's a favorite subject of mine, is how God works in our lives. I love that. I love that whole conversation. Specifics like chosen ones and so forth, I don't know if I can be specific with you because I don't know. I don't know the Bible, in a scholarly way like I probably should.
But I mean, I don't either, dude. I don't know. I don't know the biblical. I don't know the Book of David or the Jewish text. But I mean, there's something else. There's another layer of spirit there. I'm just saying, like, your ability to play your role. And I mean, I just want to know I think there's a lot of responsibilities that come with it. I mean, and it's hard to deal with all that. And
okay,
then,
let me see. Maybe you're saying this: God gives us gifts,
right.
Each one of us,
right.
Individual gifts. We all have different kind of gifts. Some are gifted with the ability to minister to others. and some are given the gift to be rescuers of people and come and help and be of great help, and some are gifted to play music and draw people in, and so I think of it like that. I think of the individual gifts that we all have. You know, you can look around between you and your friends, and you know, you can see the differences of the gifts that you all have.
Sure.
You just mentioned Ernie Watts. There was a gifted man. Yeah. I love Ernie. I hope, is he good? I mean, is this recent or?
Yeah, no, he. I mean, I'll anyone you care about, I might be. You know, that was I think within the last few months. He's great.
Oh well,
he's
that's
great.
Just great. I mean, I love Ernie Watts. I always have.
I mean, I got to believe you were playing jazz with him maybe back in the day.
No. I'm not sure. You know, I'm getting really bad with remembering.
Well, that's why I'm not going to let you get off the hook that easily. I actually, you know, I mean, maybe the better question is just if you could talk about you're right. I mean, everybody has their own true nature and their genius, and that's the beautiful thing about us as a species. If it's channeled the right way, I just, as being Jim Keltner, I was hoping you could talk about how you learned to, I don't know. I mean, like Stan Getz. Wow. Stan Getz never could understand where his sound came from. Okay, he never could understand it. It drove him insane. He had the most.
I don't know about that, but
no, I mean, what I'm saying.
Why it would drive him insane, but I can understand that he wouldn't know where his sound came from. You know, the sound came obviously when you talk about a tenor sax player, especially of his ability and his, you know, and his, you know, speak of gifts. You know, Stan Getz had a beautiful gift, unique to him, but the sound that came out of that horn was based on so many different things. And just like with a drummer, I had this conversation the other day with a friend of mine, a drummer friend, and we were talking about, you know, how I was telling him the story about my watching Al Jackson play on Ain't No Sunshine. I was in the studio watching him. I was in the control room. I asked Booker T, who had hired me to play on a song the day before, I heard them talking about Al coming into the studio for the next day, and I said, "Man, Book, can I come in the morning and watch it?" He said, "Sure." So I came in and I sat there waiting for this one-of-a-kind, amazing drum set that I figured Al Jackson would be bringing in, or somebody bringing it for him. And instead, I saw this young, long-haired guy come in with a set of shiny Silver Sparkle Ludwig drums, like from SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals.
Dolph Remp, yeah, Dolph Remp.
And so they you know, the guy set him up, and then in a few minutes later, Al walked in, all impeccably dressed, sharp, looking like he always looked, and had a pair of drumsticks with him, and that was it. And he sat down, and they started playing the song. And I didn't see him put a key to the drum, not to any drum. He sat down behind a rental kit and just played it, just like it was. And that's the sound of Ain't No Sunshine.
Wow. I love it, like dude. That. Oh, my.
Yeah, and so that told, you know, what do you think that told me? That told me that none of this stuff that, you know, because I'm a key freak. I got to have a key on me.
Really?
I'm always messing with the drum.
Okay, so you're keying it
pitch,
out. Yeah.
Something. And but I learned that morning, and that was years ago, that the sound is coming from you. It's you. It's totally you.
Right.
Oh, you say, well, how do you mean? How? And So I don't know. It's just like what Stan Getz said. He doesn't know how it happens, but that's the way it happens. It's how you hear things, how you hear. It's like when I compliment a drummer friend of mine, like Roger Hawkins. I used to always tell him, God bless his soul. I used to always tell him when I would call him, I would talk to him about how I loved his sound. You know, after I went through my period of Hal Blaine and Earl Palmer, knowing them really well, becoming friends with them, and absorbing as much as I could of their playing into my vocabulary, so that I could play on recording sessions and play them properly and so forth. When I discovered Muscle Shoals sound and Stax,
Right.
and that turned out to be Roger Hawkins and Al Jackson Jr. And between those two guys, and believe me, there are many other wonderful drummers who I love so much. Bernard Purdy, I could just go on and on and on.
Oh, come on, man. There's too many, man.
You know, yeah, there are too many.
Way too many.
And they're all different. There's
they're all
different
unique
things to love about
right.
it. So the thing is with Roger, I came in with him with the song. Or he came into my life with the song called "When a Man Loves a Woman," Percy Sledge, and the sound of the drums on that record match so beautifully the vocal and the little farfisa, which was played by my beautiful friend Spooner Oldham.
I love him, dude.
Spooner tells me the story of
Oh my gosh.
going to the session that day. He said, "Who are we playing with?" He said, "It's this cat that's he's an orderly at the hospital, and his name is Percy." And so this guy came in and sang the "You Know What" out of that song. They had, the story is that the songwriters, whose names escape me at the moment, it's too bad, but they worked the song up in different ways and finally settled on the lyric, because it was not the original lyric, but they got it where it really hit you. You know, I mean, the lyrics on that song are a genius, a genius in that it touches your soul, no matter who you are.
Right.
And then Roger comes in and plays the drum part like that. Plays, you know, they played live, and Spooner says he when he sat down behind the little farfisa, he said it was a little red farfisa. The first setting that he had was horrible, and he flipped to the next setting, and that was it. That was the one you hear on that song. And all it is the farfisa, basically the farfisa, the drums, and the vocal. You know, when you break it down, and it's just incredible. It's just one of those songs that will forever, because I am very old now, and when I was very, very young is when I discovered that song, and it's still to this day when I hear that song, it just slays me. It's just so perfect. Everything about it, the song itself, the vocal, the drums, you know, just talking to me as a drummer, his sound. And so I always told Roger, your sound. And now that he's gone, you know, there's all these conversations with, and I just realized that it's not that you can copy somebody else's sound. You can get the drums to be exactly, you can sit down behind those drums right after he played, and it's not going to sound the same. It's just not. And that's what drives Stan Getz crazy, I guess, when he's telling you that he doesn't know where his sound comes from. Because
that's in the books. I mean, he died before I ever started the show. I'm saying, when did you realize that, like, was it the Al Jackson moment? Was that when you recognized it was about the soul element of the human, the multidimensional facets of our being that make
it told me so much, man, to sit there and watch this idol of mine.
No keys.
With no drum key, no sweat, nothing. Just sit there and play that little song.
Yeah.
And then I think it was just 2 or 3 takes. And there they had it. And then from day one to now, you hear that song, and it's the same thing. You love it so much. It's just so beautiful in every way. And Bill Withers was also a beautiful, beautiful cat. He was just so natural and wonderful. Good guy, hardworking man, who loved music and tried to write some songs. And
I feel like I got another voice I want to play for you, Keltner. Take a listen to this, and we'll come back.
Okay.
I met Keltner the first time. He was playing at the Lighthouse for Gabber Szabo. And all of a sudden, he's over in this little studio in Torrance with me and Larry Carlton and Osborne, and we're playing Fat Albert cartoons. We were hired by Richard Delvey, who was famous for starting a group called the Challengers, but he liked us as a band because we could really do a lot of tunes fast. And I remember on a break, Jake, I'd say, "Hey, Jim, what are you doing this for? I just saw you playing with Gabber Szabo." And Jim said, "Well, I see the writing on the wall." And he knew that he said, "There's no money in jazz."
Mm-hmm.
And he was completely right, It didn't mean he didn't love jazz or wasn't going to play it ever again, but if you take a look at his oeuvre, he has not gone back to jazz per se. He really has become, a quintessential player in another field.
I agree 100%. Listen, I mean, you want to take a guess at who that is?
No.
That was
who was it?
It was Craig Durgee.
Oh, Craig Durgee. I was actually going to say that.
Well, you should throw it out there. Throw the guess.
Wait a minute, Craig Durgee. I should have said, yeah, because he does have a distinct. I heard his voice right away, actually. But I thought, why, Craig?
Well,
First of all, I disagree. I disagree with his assessment of my talking about. I saw the handwriting on the wall. I think maybe that was more of Craig's. That's the way he saw me. He heard what I was saying, I think, and interpreted it in that way. Because I can tell you right now that money of any kind has never played a part in my life, musical life. Talk about gifts from God. I mean, that's just. I don't know. I don't. I went from playing for $10, for a little wedding or something, to making $285 a week with Gary Lewis, and then went from there to playing in the studio most of the time, and I just started actually making money so that I could buy a home. We had 3 kids. All of that was so great, and I've just always been grateful that that was God's amazing grace, on me, and so that's the way I've always felt about it. But I never ever thought that, well, I'm going to have to leave jazz behind because there's no money in it. Never ever.
Well, but I think that's been like
Craig.
I mean,
I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Craig, because Craig Durgee was one of my favorite musicians and one of my favorite people,
Absolutely.
And we spent a lot of time together. But I think he just interpreted it like that, because it sounds like a natural thing. And a lot of people have said stuff like that, in their own lives. But for me, no, my love of jazz was from the beginning as a young kid, and then before I could actually develop as a jazz player, they snagged me into the pop world, and I went willingly.
Well, and you enhanced so many great tunes with your ability to swing your ass off. But I think I wanted you to talk about there is so much emphasis today in modern recorded music on post-production. And all the iconic albums from the period of the beginning of your, career, it was all pre-production. The band's albums, so you'd work this stuff out in pre-production. Once the record button hit, you went for it and hit it. There was very little post-production. I hear so much modern music today that it's so layered it's so synthetic, Keltner. I can't even feel it. And I wanted you to talk, not so much, I don't really care whether that's true or not. What I wanted you to talk about was a pre-production session of an iconic record you were on, and play that out, because I just think younger cats need to stop perseverating on the back end, because we have the technology to fix stuff, but it doesn't mean you should fix it.
Well, look, that conversation is being had constantly, and for years it's been had, because the levels of technology has come along throughout all these years, and every step of the way there has been this conversation about the synthetic feel compared to the real feel of people playing live and all that. But the way you really have to look at this, Jake, is that there are a lot of ways to, I hate that term, ways to skin a cat. I never have liked that.
Me neither.
I love cats and dogs.
Yeah, I love
and
cats, man.
I don't want to think about that. But you know what I'm saying when I say there are many ways to do things in life. So why wouldn't it be the same way with music? I mean, if you write a song and you're hearing it like this or that, that's the way you're going to try to do it. I mean, I can point to you, not right now, but there are many songs that I hear on the radio that are synthetic as they could possibly be. You can hear it, but I love them. Not all of it, not.
Throw out some names. Who do you love? What do you love? What do you get off on, man? Throw some stuff out there.
Oh, production.
No, I'm saying what like you don't know the songs. You just like that you can get off on the song itself, but you don't know who the artist is or what the song's name is.
Most of the time, I don't know who the artist is. I've discovered recently by watching late night TV.
Right.
If I'm up late enough and I stay to the end and there's a band coming on.
Sure.
I've never heard them before in my life. They're all very, very young usually though, and a lot of times lately they're girls, all girl bands, and they're killing me. It's so good. They're playing, but there's layers of synthetic, stuff in between. There's all kinds of stuff you can do now to make records. Look, you're talking to somebody who, back in, I don't know, when it was early Ry Cooder days, when we were doing film stuff, and even on his records, I would bring to him. He'd say, "What is that?" I'd say, "This is like an electronic thing. It's called a sampler, and I can just sample some sounds." And I'd show him, and he'd go, "Wow, that's cool." And so I'd do it. And so I've been doing this stuff like marrying together acoustic drums, which I love more than anything, with electronic sounds and electronic versions of my acoustic sounds. What I like doing is sampling my own stuff. I'm a drummer,
Sure.
so I have a good ear for things like that. So I could sample when I'm at Ross's, the drum doctor. When I'm over there messing with my stuff, or just over there just hanging out, he's got so much stuff just everywhere on the aisles and everything. I'll go around and start tapping things, and I'll pull my phone out, and I'll record some things. And some of that is so badass that I catalog it, I name it, and I'm going to use it, but that's the kind of thing that I used to do all the time. I haven't done it for a while because, COVID set me back. I didn't turn my machines on upstairs to record anything, and I started doing other things. But I really am looking forward to getting back to doing it because that's my favorite thing. And what is it? It's a hybrid of everything we're talking about now. It's natural acoustic drums and sounds put together with crazy ass, samples and things of just all kinds of stuff, gadgets, and like you can trigger things. There's all kinds of cool triggering devices, and I used to just love going into the studio early and have my drums already set up, and then put all this other stuff around it.
Mm-hmm.
Like just put different kinds of pedals and things all around me, and people wouldn't know what I was doing. And wisely, most of them didn't. Make me,
no, I know what you're saying, man.
They just liked it, and that's it, and that's part of the record or the movie or whatever. And so,
well, is there any recorded documentation of this kind of thing, or is this purely something?
Oh, of course, all kinds of stuff.
Can you point to something?
Can I what?
Could you? I mean, I'd love to hear it. I mean, is it in a movie somewhere? Like, can I scope it out?
Oh God, there's just so much.
I mean, just because you know what it is. Like, I dig. I mean, you probably were experimenting with. I mean, Michael Shreve was approached by a father and son after a Santana concert in '73. So electronic percussion has been around for a long time. I have no doubt.
Oh yeah.
I would love you to talk about what the early rigs were like in the early '70s, mid '70s when you started working that stuff. Like, did you?
Well, first of all, I never did want to do the rig thing, like Michael and all those people that I respect.
That's
very much.
That's the wrong word to use. I apologize. That's the wrong word. I'm just saying it was antiquated compared to today. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what I'm saying is that I never when I would look around and I would see people doing some electronic things, I always made a point of not wanting to do that, and the reason being because I just heard it done by somebody else. There's a very obvious reason not to do it, so I wouldn't do it like that. I would, and it wasn't like a real grand thing that I was trying to, come up with something or whatever. It just was very natural and simple. I would just get my hands on something and then I would apply it, to whatever I was doing. So I think that's the way that people are making records now. I think there's so many ways now you can do it. There's so many options for you, but there is one factor that's still the key: a song. If you've got a song, now I'm not talking about a song like "When a Man Loves a Woman." There are all kinds of different kinds of songs, but a song that reaches in and touches you somehow. It has to be able to do that, because anybody can be clever with beats and sounds.
Right.
But to put that with a song, and for me, a singer, because that's where I came in this whole world. I fell in love with singing. I play to the singer. Ringo told me that one time. That's what he does.
Purdy said that too. Purdy said the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you play to the vocal. Not everybody, but the thing is that
I think that's like drummer speak. It's like drummer jargon there.
Huh?
I mean, it's just I love that like these Hall of Fame field drummers like you guys have your own. I love that you guys like romanticize about this stuff, because the truth is that like I mean it's not about now versus then. I know that it's like a gargantuan effort, but I do want to know about how you guys. This is the key. Gary Bartz said this to me. He said that Miles could hear better than anybody. He could hear the collective sound. He could hear of the band. He knew how to.
Who did you just say? You said Miles?
Yeah, Gary Bartz was talking about Miles.
Miles, right?
Yeah. And he had the best hearing, and he could only hear the way he could hear, but he could hear the collective unit. Dizzy Gillespie, same way. Nobody could play like Dizzy if they tried, but he could hear the whole environment. He could hear the whole band, and could guide the band. And I wanted you to just talk about like how you guys formulated tunes in the studio, where you could hear, like at Quantum Studios, like talking. Could you just talk about the idea of being able to hear the entire unit, because there weren't baffles, there weren't necessarily.
Well, let me say this.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're trying to say or ask, but let me say this first. A very interesting thing about Roger again.
Please.
When Spooner was telling me this story. Spooner said,
Spooner, man.
After they cut this track, When a Man Loves a Woman, right?
Yeah.
The two of them, there was like, there wasn't anybody else really from the Muscle Shoals rhythm section at that point. And I think Roger was like 19. Imagine that.
Wow.
18 or 19 years old.
He didn't even know any better. He didn't know any better. He just hit it out.
So anyway, he said, so when Spooner said to him a few years later or whatever, the song was a massive hit and everything, and Spooner was a big part of their rhythm team. He and David and Barry and Jimmy and all of them. And so Spooner said to Roger one time, he says, the way he talks, Roger, that was a hell of a drum performance on When a Man Loves a Woman. That was awful good drumming. And Roger said to him, well, I had a hard time hearing that day. I couldn't hear things right.
Wow.
And that, to me, that just almost made me cry because I can understand that so deeply. First of all,
can you explain that?
I mean,
please
on so many
explain
levels.
That. Please explain that.
First of all,
Yeah.
the first thing about it that struck me is the fact that he's getting this compliment, and the only thing he can think of is what was wrong with the situation. and
Yeah.
I identify with that strongly. I don't say it proudly. I'd rather not.
It's
be
a
that
character.
way. But anyway,
it's sort of a character trait thing that you don't really like. I mean, that to me is like he crushed it, but he's still pointing out and that's
I mean, it's just it's a age old kind of thing.
Sure, sure.
So anyway, that number one, and
right.
then
Maybe I don't want you
and then
crying,
number two
Keltner.
and then the other reason, Jake, is because that it hit me is because how many times have I been in the studio, like all my life, it's all I've ever done, and not be able to hear properly. Just can't hear quite right.
Yep.
Things are it's the mix, something about it is not happening. And me being the personality that I am, I'm not going to be, hey, I can't hear right. No, it's still not right. Give me more of this, give me more of that. It's just not me to do that. There are people that can do that, and they can be happy and they can get it to work. Maybe it still won't work, but who knows? Whatever it is, I can't do that, so I have to suffer. I have to go ahead and just try to get through it. And fortunately, over the years, I was blessed to play with some of the greatest engineers in the whole world. Some of the greatest. And a lot of them are still around today, and a lot of them are gone. But that was huge in the kind of way that I was playing music, was the engineer. Because he's the one that's bringing us the sound, the mix, so that my sound, the sound that I'm hearing, I can manipulate to some degree. But if I'm just struggling to hear properly, then a great part of that creativity is stifled, and I just have to try to get through it. And that's what it reminded me. That's what sounded like Roger was saying.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that it's like one of the great drum performances in history, in the history of recorded music, And I don't know if Jackson was like that. I regret not knowing how. I knew Roger really well. We became really, really good friends. But I didn't know Al, and it's unfortunate. Al, from what I understand about Al Jackson, he was so freaking busy. They had him playing day and night.
No. I mean, he was doing
session.
No, because when I interviewed Cropper, he said that he was playing with Willie Mitchell, and then after the gigs, a lot of those Al Green albums, they'd cut them at High Records, and then Cropper and Dunn finagled him on the staff at Stax, and his wife would call up and be like, Steve, you got to come over, man. Every time I try to go after him, he comes out of the bed swinging, dude. He had no sleep.
Yeah.
It was Willie Mitchell live, going to the studios to cut all those hits with the Al Green on High Records, And then Cropper and Dunn recruited him, and so he was basically sleeping 1 or 2 hours a night, maybe. Like, he came up swinging on his wife.
Huh.
He was in a... But, I mean, did you have... Tackett's told me, dude, for a while, you guys would have routines where it was like, you'd be up before the crack of dawn, you know, and...
No, I never did that. I'd love to be able to romanticize with you and say I did stuff like that. I never did that. I was way too selfish.
I don't know what I'm just saying. If you had you weren't passing up 4 gigs a day. There was a time when you got locked into a routine.
I never did 4 gigs a day. I never did any of that. I never did
really?
those kind of things.
Really?
No. I was. I won't use the word, but I just wouldn't allow it in my life. I was too. I needed my sleep. So
Al Jackson.
we may have hit on something here. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I may have been one of the first ones in the scene out here.
Yeah.
To make sessions start at noon.
Really?
Because
we need to work on that.
Because for the most part, like Hal and Earl and those guys with the Wrecking Crew and all that stuff, they always had to start early in the morning. But we all stayed up too late at night. And I'm talking about some records. Yeah, a lot of records we did real late at night.
Right. That was what he was saying. There'd be a Bonnie
Raitt.
We
did that. I wasn't going to get up in the morning and go do 3 or 4 sessions a day. That was real studio guys.
I mean, you were doing Fat Albert records, dude. At Quantum with Joe Osborne, like all the cats. Like I'm just saying, like that to me is like you were doing. At some point, you were doing jingles. At a certain point, once we got the Keltner reputation, it was, oh yeah, he's not starting till noon. But you weren't like that when you first got in, man.
Oh no,
yeah,
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I at some point, I think I may have been. I don't know. Yeah, I might be taking credit for something, and it's an awful thing to take credit for, anyway.
Well, first of all, I mean, it was. I think I think that I just want you to talk a little bit about your faith in your, like you said, you operate on a path, a very deep spiritual path, even though you're not, you can't riff stuff out of the Bible and not necessarily totally well versed in the scriptures or the meaning, but you have lived this life, and I just wanted you to talk a little bit about your, how your faith has worked with your music through and through in your life. I mean,
I can tell you that every day of my life there has been a miracle. Now you say, well, come on now, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. There's a miracle every day in my life, multiple sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm just not paying attention. But it's just like that. It's like that. And I have a feeling that that's not just me. I think that's with all of us. But you have to pay attention. And so what I've discovered is that the more I pay attention to the source, which for me is God. When I say the source, I mean God in my life. The more I pay attention to God in my life, the more I get out of life. The more I get out of this life, the more things just come together in ways that just stun me. Just how amazing God's grace is. You don't even have to talk about how awesome His mercy is, because we're all really a bunch of crazy, self-serving people in this life. That's the way we that's what the world teaches us when we get out into the world. And so there are a lot of things that we need to be that we need to have His mercy. Not a reasons why we need His mercy, and that's the other thing. I mean, it's just tremendous how I have become right up to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're talking about this now. You ask me now.
Sure.
I'm not talking about last year, 20 years ago.
I mean specifically
week.
now.
I'm
Yeah,
talking
now.
right now. I just got back from I made you call me late because I was on an errand,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in my car, and I'm driving, and I'm cursing under my breath at this person who is driving too slow in front of me. They don't understand that I got to get back for an interview. They don't know that. And so I'm cursing under my breath. And I had just 2-3 days ago read in the scriptures, in some passage, some wonderful passage, talking right to me like it always does.
Mm-hmm.
Said, don't be cursing under your breath at everything. And when I heard that, see, I love
that line. No, I keep going. That's
I love
unbelievable.
The message.
Yeah.
The translation
I love
is
it.
key for me because I've read that probably 100 times in like maybe King James or New International Version or some kind of thing, like you'll see in like a church, in the Bible in church, and it kind of, I hear what it's saying, but for some reason it doesn't connect to me like this translation called the Message does. And so it's real plain English. You say, oh, well, that's the Living Bible or whatever. Yeah, there's different versions of that. But whoever put this together, the Message, it's incredible. You can go and you can read the same scripture, the same passage in a message, and then go on the Message and then go to King James, for instance. And it'll be totally different. It'll be very flowery,
Yes.
wonderful, very, very poetic,
Interesting.
beautiful, really. But it won't hit you like it's your mama talking right at you in your face. And so when I get to these things,
I want you to go back to the car thing. You were cursing under your breath. Did you stop? You stopped.
Which
you
I
stopped.
do all the time.
Right.
I'm just that's all
Right.
I
You're
do.
like, God,
I'm a child of this world, and so everything pisses me off everywhere I'm at.
Join the club, man.
Something is pissing me off.
Yeah.
So, I'm a polite person. I'm a politely pissed off person. So I'm not the kind that rolls down the window and gives, somebody the finger and yells, and I'm not that kind of pissed off person. I'm just, the one that curses under my breath. And so this message was like right to me.
Right.
It was like it was saying, do this and try not to do that, and then also don't be cursing under your breath. And I thought, oh my God. And so for the last 3 days, right up until just a few minutes ago, I'm continuing to confess that. I'm continuing to go, oh, Lord, thank you, Lord.
Well, when I called you on your cell phone, you got really upset. But that was for something that happened in the car. I think that was the phone or something. But yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be the phone or somebody in a drive, situation. It's always going to be something. But that's our nature,
Sure.
is to go off and blame other people and yell, scream.
Well, project out. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and all it does is it just separates you from God, even for a tiny fraction of a second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that anymore. I don't want even that anymore. There's no way that I'm talking about saintly stuff. There's no way I'm going to be a saint. But I want to try harder to be in His, to have my view completely perfect of Him, total understanding, completely paying attention at all times. That's when everything in my life improves, when I do that. So that's all I'm saying.
You said something important. With Jim Keltner, you have to hang on to every word because he says very critical things that can lead to new pathways. And you said, okay, Al Schmidt, you never mentioned his name, but you talked about, because he's one of the cats that's passed on, obviously.
He was one of the greatest.
Right. So I want you to talk about try to nail you down a little bit. I mean, and all this flowery stuff. I mean, you said that you can manipulate your sound a little bit. You said a little bit with a really good engineer like Al Schmidt. You can't do that when you can't hear yourself and the sound is bad. Can you talk about what you mean when you say manipulate your sound and why with a great engineer like Al Schmidt?
Well, when I say manipulate my sound, that sounds. I'm actually glad you brought me back to.
Yeah,
that
I know. We're bringing each other back.
Yeah, because that's not very clear. See, here's the way to clarify for that for me, for me to clarify that for you, for your question.
Yeah.
My sound, the sound that I have, that I produce when I sit behind the drums, is totally 100% based upon what I'm hearing from around me. If I'm playing by myself, it's the same kind of thing, but I'm getting off on the sound of the instruments that I'm playing.
Right.
If I'm in a band situation, the sound that I am generating from my instruments is totally based upon what I'm hearing. What the vocal sounds like, how the vocal is blending with the keyboard, how the keyboard is being enhanced in some kind of way by the guitar part, and the bass, whether it's busy or real straight, simple.
Yeah, like patterns. Yeah.
But with a beautiful round sound that I can hear.
Oh yeah.
Then my sound, I can make my sound fit with that, and that's what I'm talking about.
I got it now. That's very well put.
If I can't hear great,
now we're getting somewhere.
There's no way I can do anything except just try to get through it, and hope that they're getting it all good.
Al Schmidt, can you just talk about, I think he was an A&R cat before. I mean, he loved music. That's sort of the issue. Like all the beautiful cats, like Wexler, Dorn, Schmidt, I mean, they were all music fanatics before they got into production. Can you talk about his legacy and your relationship with him?
Well, his legacy is well known. And the guys that I know, all the musicians I know.
What do you think made him
everybody,
great? This is your interview.
I think his ears. He was gifted. He was gifted with great ears and taste. His what sounded good to him. He came up. I asked some questions one time, and somebody who really knows his stuff real well said, "Well, they told me who his main influence was, and I've forgotten now." But that was the key for him, and so he was influenced by some probably some other geniuses, and he got the right training because to be an engineer you have to be smart enough to be able to figure the hardware stuff of it, the how to use things and how to be able to solve problems and things like that. And so he got all that, but there are a lot of guys that can do that. The step beyond that is the ears and the aesthetic, the way you hear music and what you want to hear from the music. And And other than that, I can't tell you why or how he you can talk to another engineer.
No, I wasn't sure if you would.
Great engineers, and they can tell you what he did that was different. But all I know is that he was one of the best at it to make the room come alive. Where I'm talking live recording in the studio. If you're overdubbing, you're coming in, you're playing on a pre-recorded set of tracks or whatever, then that's a totally different thing. But if you're playing live in the studio, it's really important that you have a great mix, and that's what he was famous for.
Did you have a lot of personal? Did you work with him a lot or no?
I didn't work with him what I would call a lot.
Right.
But when I did, it was always such a great pleasure. No, he. I don't know how. My world was different. Has always been with artists.
Absolutely.
Who there were some who who utilized his talents, but for the most part, they were artists who had their own engineers, people that they worked very closely with. Unfortunately, I got to know all of them. I know of so many engineers in this business, and like I said, some of them are still here, and a lot of them are gone, just like the musicians themselves and the artists. But yeah, I've been really blessed by being in the studio with genius engineers and genius musicians.
Well, but you combine it with your feel and sound and tone, and that's the magic. I want to ask you. This is an interesting question to pose to Jim Keltner, but it's a crisis. I put it up on Facebook today. I wouldn't say it's a full-blown crisis, but I will say that it's going to be a major issue. And Keltner, I want you to go back to when you were. I just want you to think about being a creative musician for a livelihood, independent, maybe a small label, basically road dogging it, playing gigs live, and all of a sudden, and maybe because of your upbringing, because of your spiritual views, this is not a political issue, because I know that there are progressive people who are naturopaths and they don't believe in Western medicine, and then there are people on the conservative spectrum that they don't want to be mandated to have to take something or whatever. The point is, it's not about politics. It's the idea that all the music that's happening right now, Keltner, the live music, if you want to participate in an event, and I'm not talking about in like a clothing store or at a private club or festival, the musicians have to be vaccinated. Okay, and there's a lot of, and so what I'm seeing is, and noticeably, my beautiful spiritual cats that, have their own personal belief systems, they don't want to alter those, and they're going to have to walk away from music. And I want to know what a Keltner, a leader, what you would do. Would you just get vaccinated?
Wait. What are you saying? They have to walk away from music?
I'm saying right now there is live music beginning to happen again. Okay, and they've made it a point now on large streaming sites. Like I watched this big festival. They'll say prior to this, the entire band and crew was vaccinated. Every live musical performance, private club performance, the musicians have
you have to be vaccinated.
Okay, but I'm saying.
So what are you going to walk away from that rather than get vaccinated if you don't believe in vaccination?
Well, I'm just saying,
somebody who's done that?
I'm just looking at the landscape of it, and I'm seeing a lot of people. I just feel like, is that a personal, I understand, I got vaccinated. I have no issue with this, but I just think people there's a reason why half the country hasn't been vaccinated, Keltner. People have a lot of different feelings on it. I'm just saying, you'd have to give up your career as a live music. I mean, I'm just saying, like, at this point, I'm trying to see how we move forward to bring back spiritual communal music. And it's a scary thing for me right now. Some of the ticket prices for very average bands are insane. They're providing dinner with I'm not going to a Bob Dylan concert with Keltner and Tim Drummond and having a dinner before it. Or you know, I mean, like, this, I just don't want live music to become a boutique thing, Keltner. And I got to be I want to get your feeling, what your gut tells you, man, because it just seems
you don't want it to be boutique, which it looks like it's headed toward. You're saying
the economy, yeah, bro. I mean, my man. I mean, we haven't had. It's been atrophied, the entire road dog circuit, because that's the only way you can make money as a musician today. You certainly can't make it through personal intellectual property. There is no market-based record industry to speak of. So you got
they stole all the publishing.
Road dogging it, and not even the gigs themselves, the merch tables. It's the merch tables. And so domestic touring is stopped. You have regional shows with bizarre capacity zoning. And I'm just saying, like, it seems to me like the only thing left for me, Keltner, aside from my children and many chapters of bliss in my life and continued discussions with people like yourself, is just live music. So I'm not even vested in it, but I recognize that, like, no one's going to tell Jim Keltner what, you know, that you're going to get. I mean, if you were 25, you'd probably be, like, in a quandary. I mean, based on
well, look, okay. Yeah, this pandemic happened at the right time for me and my generation, because we've already, you know, we did all the stuff that the younger kids dream of doing, you know,
and then some,
and it just, you know, they had their legs cut out from under them, you know. This virus was horrible, and 14 months of. So I used to sit and talk with Cynthia sometimes. Say, you know, can you believe this? You know, I'm getting my pension, you know, from the union. You know, thank God, we got our Social Security.
Sure.
You know, I get royalties and things, and so we're okay. And you know, with a few gigs here and there, with 14 months, I only did 3 gigs because even though some people called and were saying, listen, we're being very safe and everything, and I was just getting ready to do it, and then I would think at the last minute, no, I'm just not ready, sorry.
I love that. Go with your gut, man.
I did like three sessions, 3 recording sessions in 14 months. So, I can't imagine how the young people were dealing with it. It's just horrible. The whole thought of it is horrible. But if I'm trying to understand your question,
you already found what. Look, that's the question: is what is your advice to those cats the younger cats? Put yourself in their shoes when they're seeing
advice for somebody. I can't. How can I give advice for somebody that I don't know what? You know.
Well, you said you were the one that said before about divine intervention. You know, Dylan calling you. You know,
Oh, well, sure. Listen, I would always say, if somebody asked me, I would always say, listen, put your faith in God. You know, my wife used to tell me, and she just said it recently. She says, you know, when you're pissing and moaning and trying to figure things out, and you're upset, and you don't know if you should take this gig or how do I get another gig, and this and that, and all those kinds of things that bother you when you're young, and you know, she says, God, if you believe in God and you put your faith in Him, He has. See, how does she say it? He has you where He wants you to be. In other words, stop worrying so much, because you're not in charge. That's the beauty of believing in God and putting God in charge of your life. You don't have to worry about it anymore. I've many times, and this has been for many years, but then a lot of the time when I was screwing up, you know, because I haven't always, you know, walked my talk, which is sad, you know, but it's just a very common thing for people to talk about God and then go and screw everything up in their lives. But, you know, as I get older and I'm getting better at making this thing work called faith, you know, making my faith work, I I realized that it's I feel badly for people who don't have that. Like, don't they? I ask myself sometimes. I ask Cynthia. I say, don't they realize that, you know, being on your own is dangerous in a world like this. Our world is more dangerous now than it's ever been. It's always been a crazy, dark, dangerous world, but it's more crazy and dark now than it's ever been. And so, how could you think that you've got any kind of control? You know, it's just scary to me. I can't imagine. Well,
because I mean, you're totally right. I was hoping you give some inspirational words of encouragement, whether you've been through it or not. You know, having your yoga, your livelihood stripped away from you. If you can talk to younger cats about a time in your career when you needed a lot of perseverance and charisma to overcome the adversity you were facing, how you did it. Because, I mean, I'm telling you, like, they've been thrown off their routines. They can't make it,
sure.
You know?
Listen, when I was young and there were problems, there wasn't a pandemic, but there were other problems.
Sure.
You know, there were other different times when I wasn't working very much or something. And I'd piss and moan, you know, here and there. But really, I always had this feeling, because my mama taught me. She said, pray. Pray. Prayer means a lot of different things to different people. To me, there's a scripture that I remember being turned on to sometime in my middle age, and I loved it so much I memorized it. It's Mark 11:24. What things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them. And I used to pray that. I mean, I used to think it. I would just like have it in my head, and then I would realize that, okay, if I'm taking that scripture seriously, then all I have to do is pray and believe. And believe me, I mean, it sounds too simple if you're cynical, and I say cynical in that that's the way most people live their lives. You know, don't talk to me about God. You know, come on, I got control of my life. If I can't have control of my life, then I don't. Why am I living? You know, all those things that people say that, you know, that don't believe. You know, not believing is a choice. It's not a.
Right.
It's nobody's putting you through. You know, and nobody's going to hate you if you don't believe. I mean, certainly believers are not going to hate a non-believer. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, like, I think it's just, you know, I mean, you have to be in. I mean, I just want to ask you if you could talk about.
Let me.
No, before you go,
any further,
because you talked about your mom. I just want you to talk about.
Yeah, but before I go there,
yeah.
let me clarify something here right now.
Go ahead.
When I hear myself talking about believers and non-believers and all that, right now in this climate that we are living in right now, to talk about a believer is to me. I saw even Jimmy Kimmel last night on TV go. They were having this little game thing they were playing. You know, I love Kimmel. I love the show, and they're holding up pictures of guys, and then they're all sitting there drinking wine and having a good time and making comments about the people. He gets to this one guy, says, "This is so and so, his name, and he's a pure believer," and he goes, "Blah," and he tosses the thing across the room. So that's what this has become. Like, all you have to do is turn the TV on and watch some of these preachers who are preaching things that have nothing to do with the Bible.
Yeah, no, they're corrupt, though, Keltner. That's the problem, man.
I think
they're corrupt,
they're
man.
kind of crazy people. They're not. I don't think that But how is it that they can be in a position like that to
Yeah.
lead other people? That's just so frightening and dangerous.
It's horrible. It's a
so
travesty.
anyway, so the thing is that I will never hide my faith.
Sure.
I will never hide.
I love
my
it,
faith
man. I know.
because
I can feel you, man.
That people are going to put me in the category that that I'm a believer, so I must be one of those crazy ass people. I maybe I am a crazy ass person, but I know that I believe in God, and I want to try to do the right thing in my life.
Absolutely.
And I'm a Democrat. Let me tell you this: I'm a Democrat. I'm a liberal, progressive Democrat who believes in God strongly.
You know what, man, dude? I want to also be very clear.
It was Republicans that could say that. And now I don't even know what a Republican is anymore.
I don't want to go. I want to go back.
I don't hate any Republicans, and I don't hate you if you don't believe politically like me. There's no reason to hate somebody like that. But it's very confusing and dark and dangerous, this world right now, because you can be led in so many different directions. I'm not trying to lead anybody anywhere. If you ask me questions about my faith, I'm glad to talk about it.
No. Well, I just want to say that I respect, and like you told me so eloquently, maybe 7 years ago in our first interview. You said it. You said you believe in. You got to look in the eyes of your kids, and you can see love. That's God. I mean that is true and true. And so what I wanted you to talk about the first memory that you can remember when your mom came back from the institution after she went away for a while, because to me that would have been a revelation for you to see your mom and she was good and she was okay again.
Yeah, well, that was you're referring to the story I told
with
you
your
about,
sister. Yes.
When my sister.
And then you went all the way down to rural.
Paralyzed me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I was just crying all the time, and she was 6 and I was 8, and an 8-year-old loses his 6-year-old sister, and it's traumatic, beyond any kind of words I can tell you, and so then I'm riding with my aunt and uncle. We pull out of the parking lot, and I'm looking at the front of the funeral home. People are filing out, and I see my dad and one of my other uncles carrying my mom. But they weren't carrying her like they were holding her up,
right? And
she was just floundering, her arms were flailing, and she was like, I knew what was going on. It killed her, that her little daughter, my little sister, we had just saw her in the casket. We just seen her in the casket, and it was killing everybody. And so that was the last time I saw my mom for a while. And then they shipped me off to my.
No, you told me the tanker, the oven blew up. The dude, it was severely injured.
Yeah, it was in the swamps in Louisiana.
Dude, you had the craziest childhood, man. I mean, dude,
there was a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma.
But when you saw your mom,
when I got to see my mom later, I got to see my mom and everything was fine, after I had come from Vivian, Louisiana, from the swamps into Texas, Grand Prairie, Texas.
Oh my God. Anywhere else?
No, that was it. And my love for Louisiana and Texas is deep, and it hurts me deeply to hear all the crazy shit going
terrible.
on in those states.
Terrible.
Where because I don't want to put everybody in Texas and Louisiana are not crazy. They're not nuts. They're good, normal people, God-fearing people, and they're trying to lead their good lives. They're working hard and stuff, and then they get put in the category with the crazy people, and I resent that. But anyway,
yeah.
So when I saw my mom later, I was obviously, I was always a mama's boy. So, I mean, I loved my dad a lot, but I was a mama's boy, and I didn't want to ever leave her anymore. I clung to her, and so during the time we spent together, she told me, she explained to me about God, the way God works, and about how we're going to see Jackie again, my little sister again one of these days, Jacqueline Marie. We'll see her again someday. And then she just started like that and showing me, things. And we didn't go to church all the time. We went to church once in a while. So it wasn't about church, but it was really about God and the love. God is love.
God is love. That's what you said.
God is love. And
that's right.
And then she would talk about Jesus, and I would say, I would, as I grew older, I questioned the part about Jesus. I kept saying, well, why, what's the problem here and what's the problem there? And she was just always wonderful, and she just explained it just right. And then later on, when I got married, I still had those same questions, but I married an incredibly wonderful young lady who picked up the rest of it and from my mom and took me all the way, and she explained to me in such a way that everything makes sense. And I owe to the strongest, to the most wonderful women in my life, my mom and my wife, everything about my faith. And so, that's how that happened.
I know, can you just talk about how, I know you collaborated with him before, but Tackett told me, I can't find the quote, but he said, Dylan's like, I don't like those mega churches. He's like, I come from the Spirit Church. And I wanted you to talk about the Spirit Church because, Keltner, the reason we connect, because I'm a Tao. I received the Tao, which is a whole other, there's a way of life. It's an Eastern, and it's very real, and it's incredibly intense. But the point is that, like, you, Spooner, Tackett, Bobby, obviously, Bob Dylan, dude, that's the Spirit Church. And I think what's maddening for people who are, I don't categorize or polarize like crazy people, but I do feel that if you're non-thinking and you're not objective and you're not going to analyze the facts and you're going to just bury your head in the sand, that's how Hitler came to be. Period. So all I'm saying is the Spirit Church is when at that point it all fades away. And I just wanted you to talk about that because that to me is love. That was love. When I hear that,
you just said it basically. Look, love is there's all these old sayings. Love is what makes the world go round.
Right.
God is love. Love.
I love when Keltner talks about love. Yeah.
Yeah, love. Love is the whole deal, man. And I feel that somewhere along the way, and I think it was from my mama, and my daddy too, because my dad was a good man. My dad was the type of man who didn't want to cheat people, and he had integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what integrity was then, but I think I got.
Sure.
I didn't hear things in the household as a kid that made me think like, oh yeah, okay, so in life you have to get the upper hand. You got to get the upper hand. Okay, I got it. Now there were a lot of kids raised like that, and not all of them turn out to be crooks. There's nothing wrong with having the upper hand if you do it in a loving way, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It never was a part of my thing. I didn't ever need to feel like I had to have the upper hand in anything. And which is interesting because there's a scripture in Romans in the New Testament where Paul is talking, and he's saying basically he's trying to tell them to live like the Lord Jesus and be and don't always. And he said befriend people, the little people,
right?
Little guys, people who are lower than you. Befriend them, to make friends out of them. Don't try to be the great somebody. Is the way the message ends, and it's just so plain and simple. There's nothing complicated or crazy or off-putting to anybody. It should be could be any conversation with anybody, you know, from a father to his son. But those kinds of things in early life shape you for later on. And so I always saw my dad trying to be the good guy.
Right.
And I, you know, he wasn't a saint by any means. And my mom, you know, was she was a heck of a, you know, she would put you in your place.
The women in your life have been very strong.
Yeah,
man.
strong.
Yeah, strong, man.
But also very loving. And
sure.
And I know that's where that comes from. But so look, if you're into the Tao, if the Tao is, if you feel love out of that, and it makes you want to be more of a loving person, and you are turning into a person who realizes that giving is way more satisfying than taking, than getting, and stuff like that, then we're all on the same page, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, no, what I'm saying, but now, I think there's something different about the. I wish you could just articulate the spiritual love, the making love on the bandstand with those cats, because that is what it's about. Like, you can quote the scriptures, and I you know, my name is Jewish, but like, my mom was Catholic, sounds just like, in the sense of strong woman, but a lot of love, just like your mom and your wife. And it just, when again, you know, music is the universal healer. Albert Eiler wrote that in like 1969. You know, it's like, you know,
sure.
like I just want you to put me there, because, you know, I was 2 years old. But when I hear that music, it was like, I mean, Tackett said, you told me, it was an odd scene. It certainly wasn't the, you know, the Crusades or the Bill Graham crew. And there were people holding up signs that said, you know, hey, Bob, you know, Jesus likes your old songs too. Nobody knew what to do. You know, like, it was, he just,
Bob knew what to do.
Yeah, Bob did.
That's the thing. Yeah. Bob knew what to do, and all I wanted to do was be there with Bob. You know.
Oh man.
But Bob, when Bob Dylan is singing songs like "I Believe in You,"
oh man,
and
Jeez.
"When You're Gonna Wake Up," and songs, you know, and "Covenant Woman," and "What Can I Do for You." When he's singing those songs, and that's all he's singing. But don't forget, when we went out on the road, I didn't know what I was getting into. It was Bob. It's like,
I thought you had a bunch of rehearsals. You didn't shed.
Oh yeah, no, we had rehearsals. Yeah. But we were playing those. I love those songs. Though it's typical of Bob. Bob is one of those songwriters. Bob is the songwriter. Bob's songs all have something that reaches in.
Yes.
To me, I'm speaking for myself, and I have a feeling that I'm probably speaking for a great number of people. Okay? You know, President, what's his name? Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Said it, you know, live on a microphone in front of the whole world. Said that no president has ever spoken about human rights and things like that more powerfully than Bob Dylan. I mean,
it's profound. Actually, it's profound.
Bob is profound in every way, in everything, every aspect of his life. But Bob will always be confusing people, and then people in their confusion think that he's confusing us because that's
right.
what
Well, I mean, it's just
do.
He's the Zen master. It's like Miles, dude. Yeah, it's unreal.
And so what? If you're confused, you blaming it on Bob?
No. You know,
no. And so anyway, the thing is that when we were rehearsing, I was playing those songs and just loving them. Sometimes I would cry because I had a history with Bob Dylan. My first time I ever cried while I was playing was with Bob Dylan on his song "Knocking on Heaven's Door."
Wow.
That had a visual aspect of it too. I was watching the screen, and so the combination of that and those changes, and you know, just the freaking genius of Bob Dylan being able to put an incredibly simple set of changes, set of chords, with a melody that just goes straight into your gut, right into your heart, and then singing about something that brings you to tears. I mean, that's Bob Dylan for me. That's the way he entered my life, and so then when years later, and I'm playing with him on these gospel songs, doing the same thing. Some of the songs hit me so hard I would cry, and
well, you guys went back out on tour like later down the road?
and so then we went out on tour,
right?
And so,
and by the way, there are soundboards. I mean, the band is on fire. It is the most. I mean,
the band,
it's like
the band
a gospel.
wasn't on fire in the beginning. The band developed.
Yeah.
You have to have you have to give a band a chance, to be familiar with the sound. And by the way, that same band, if the songs were not consistent, like if I love playing on these two songs, those other two songs I don't know, I'm struggling with, I don't care for them. I go to sleep, my mind goes, what am I having for dinner, or what's tomorrow?
Yeah, I dig.
Or what date is it?
Yeah, right.
And so, if it's like that,
right,
then that's too bad, because then the band it'll be a different thing. But with Bob, those songs, every one of those songs is so powerful. Every one of the songs in any era of his, if you're playing with Bob Dylan and you're playing live with him, any of the songs that he plays that are his songs have something that makes you want to dig in. It's just there, and it's unfortunate that not all songwriters have that, but Bob has had it, and ever since he was a kid. And I was only in that one band. There's the band that he has now. I haven't seen them live, but they're all guys that I know. The drummer now is Matt Chamberlain, who's one of my favorite of the younger drummers. And
wow, he's great. I can't believe he just dropped his name. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we talked. We talked about it. Playing with Bob, and he's 100% into it. He wants to make it work, and he's of the caliber that if he wants to make something work, he's going to make it work.
Well, I mean, like I know that.
So Bob will benefit. The whole band will benefit. Everybody will benefit from it. But the point is that they can only rise to, and this is another conversation I had just recently with somebody, you can only rise as far as the artist and their music is going to take you. And that's that was in explaining to somebody about something, and I was just saying how fortunate I've been to be able to be with those kind of artists, to be able to have some place to rise. I mean, to go, whew, I mean, So
can you just?
Bob,
I just want to clarify something.
Yeah.
That did you go on tour with the Traveling Wilburys? That's the first time you cried was live on tour.
No, there was no tour with the Traveling Wilburys.
You never went on. So you cried in the studio, knocking on heaven's door.
No, not with the Traveling Wilburys. That was with Dylan.
Dylan. Because I thought you played on. I thought you played on the Pat Garrity. The soundtrack. You had no prior studio engagement.
That was Knocking on Heaven's Door.
And that was 8 years before the Saved Slow Train Coming band came around.
Yeah, that was like 71 or something.
Right. And so, like, I mean, you Knocking on Heaven's Door was cut at that time. You remember crying, in the studio, being moved.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the next time I played with him was in New York with Leon and Carl and Jesse, Ed, which was one of my all-time favorite rhythm sections. And we played on Watching the River Flow. And we were sitting there. I was sitting there at the drums, listening to Leon groove his butt off, and watching Dylan standing right up against the wall, mouthing the lyrics. I guess he was still writing. So yeah, that was another moment to remember.
I'm sorry. When was that exactly? What year was that?
I don't know what year it was, but it was in between the
sure, it was in between
Knocking on Heaven's Door and 1979, which was the gospel.
I got one more voice for you, Keltner, and then we'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
We were working at a club called Sherry's in Hollywood, and he came and joined my band. And a guy that would substitute piano for me was named Leon Russell because I was doing a session. So Leon is playing one night, and he gets to play with Jim Keltner. As the next day, Leon called me and says, "Holy crap, what a great player that guy is." I said, "I know." He said, "Well," he says, "he's going to go far." I said, "I know it." I said, "It's just a matter of time." About 3 weeks later, Jim Keltner comes to me and says, "I got offered this gig, Don. I don't know whether to take it. What do you think?" It's with Gary Lewis and the Playboys. And Leon says, it would work out. I said, "Take it." And that's how it started. And then, I love Jim. I hear from him all the time, and we stay pretty close.
Yeah, no. Who is
Don
that?
Randy.
Oh, you
God
got
bless
it.
him.
You
Don
got.
Randy.
I mean,
Don
I
Randy
just
so
pointed
much.
to. I just, yeah.
I hated leaving that gig. When
I
was
want to talk
playing with
about
Don-
Sherry's. I've never heard about Sherry's before. Please break it down.
Well, it was a little club, and it was a piano bar, literally a piano bar, and he was playing the piano, entertaining all these movie stars.
Wow.
People, Frank Sinatra. I missed the Frank Sinatra era, but he used to go in there all the time, apparently, and everybody, all big movie star type people were there. Diana Dors she liked to drink, so she would be sitting right by my drums, right on at the bar, and I would hear every conversation. It was an amazing gig. And
who was on bass?
And Putter Smith and
Harvey
Newmark. Harvey Newmark played most of the time in the beginning, and then Putter took over.
I'm just so dude. You're making my day, dude. I mean, Keltner. I cannot believe you and Putter, man. With Randy at Sherry's, dude. That is...
Yeah, it was some of the best moments I ever had in music. I mean, as far as just having fun and feeling like somebody. I felt like... I just told that to a friend of mine just recently. I felt like I was a real jazz drummer when I was playing with Don. And Don is the first one to say he wasn't he wasn't playing like, real bebop. And he was a jazz-inflected player.
Exactly, dude, totally inflected. You guys were all but you were all maniacs. Like you all tried to go for it. That's what made it great.
Yeah, well, yeah, but Don had his time with the in the studio.
Dude, he did some great albums,
Don was a
man.
big time guy.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, I hated leaving that gig, but to his credit, God bless him, he said, "Yeah, you should take that gig, Jimmy." I was making $85 a week with Don, and I went up from 85 to 250 a week with Gary. First thing I did was buy a Corvette. Anyway, this is old stuff, Jake. This is stuff I've said a million times. But I guess
I know no one's ever.
Who,
Let me just ask you about when Leon. Does Leon still visit you in dreams? Can you talk a little bit about his? Was he able to play jazz?
No, Leon was not a jazz player.
So you guys when he would sub for Randy, you guys would play more R&B, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, see the funny thing about that is I don't even recall that. I really do not recall Leon subbing for Don. I don't know why, but I do not recall that.
I like to jog your memory. Leon, that's one reason I like doing this thing. Yeah.
Leon was really the key to my whole thing that I'm doing now, that I'm still doing today. Mm-hmm. He brought me into that world, and he gave me the most encouragement of that a person could possibly imagine having, and then also. I don't know if I ever tell you this really quickly. When Leon wanted to do his record in Muscle Shoals, we all flew there and then drove up to this little funky studio, very tiny little place, Muscle Shoals Sound, and it was right on Jackson Highway, mm-hmm. the famous studio. And I went in there with Leon, with the band, with we were all getting ready to sit up, and I met Roger, and Roger was just a sweetheart, and we bonded right away. And he said, "You want to use my drums?" And I said, "Oh man, are you kidding?" So I played on that Carney record of Leon's with Roger Hawkins' drums, and
whoa,
and that little song "Tightrope" was the single, and that was on Roger's drums. And so when I got home, the first thing I did was I went and bought a snare drum just like Roger's, and put a calf head on it and did the whole, try to tune it just exactly like Roger's. And but that was with Leon, you know. So I had so many great adventures with Leon, and you know, and then of course Mad Dogs and Englishmen, that was Leon's deal.
But you don't recall, because Karstein had another story. You guys started chewing the fat one day, and then you found out you were from Tulsa. Do you remember meeting Leon? Because it sounded to me like what Randy was saying was that was the first time when he would sub for you that he got hip to you because you were swinging your ass off.
No, I think Don. I don't know what Don was.
I mean, it was Don tripping out on acid. He just not like.
No,
like maybe
no,
you don't.
No, it's just. It's
I mean,
just,
I do this for a living, Keltner. Like, why are these guys lying? You know, I mean, you don't remember it.
No, nobody's lying.
Yeah.
You know, it's just things get turned around a little bit. But here's the thing.
I love everything gets
Leon,
turned around. Yeah.
I met Leon when Snuff Garrett picked me up and told me he wanted me to come and meet the producer of Gary's music. And so I went to, it was, I think it was Western Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sitting there. He had kind of strawberry blondish looking hair, and he had, and it was like a ducktail and everything. And he had, what do you call it, suede, Indian type outfit on, you know,
Native
suede,
American, yeah.
buckskin and
Yeah.
stuff. Anyway, so that was Leon, and that's the first time I met him. And he said, "They tell me you're from Tulsa," and I said, "Yeah, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma." And they said, "Well, the other boys are too, Carl and Tommy Triplehorn." And so that was the first time I met him, and he knew that I was from Tulsa, and that was it.
So I mean, we
didn't play. We didn't play.
I you know, a part of me just kind of wishes in some way, although I'm not sure if we'd be talking right now, that you kept playing at Cherry's with Putter Smith and then just turned yourself into a jazzer, you know, through and through.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you know what I think is cool is that those guys, as Memorial Day weekend, you know, Keltner, we can wrap up right now. It's like, basically, I'm 43 years old, and it's been a rough decade for a lot of reasons, for our world, and I just feel like I've been on this journey for a decade, basically, and I recognize that the real heroes are the musicians. They're the ones that the people that have fought in the wars and the corruption and the insanity and what we, like you say, all the things that we see on the news and the depravity and the brilliance and everything in between. I mean, I'm so honored to be able to talk to you and Merle Haggard and Taj Mahal and Rob Finefield and, you know, all my peers.
Did you talk to Rob?
Many times. I mean, the point is that, like, I mean, it's like, Keltner, you guys have continued to help me continue to grow, and I just feel like you guys. My prayer is that live music, and
listen, don't worry about don't worry about live music. You know, people will find a way, and there will be audiences, and you know, we just have to. The part that kind of disturbs me is the people who don't want to get vaccinated. And I understand, because I'm a health nut. You know, I went from being a drunk, crazy, dumb butt to a health nut. And so I don't want to put anything crazy and extra or weird, anything in my body that's not natural either. But it was explained to me that my mama had a had me polio vaccinated when I was a kid in Tulsa, and she also had me vaccinated for something else. I don't know. There were all kinds of vaccinations when I was a kid. So there's no such thing as me being pure and not having stuff in my system already. And besides that, the vaccination in California here, the way I see it, has opened us up because most of us have gotten vaccinated. Now we can go to dinner and stuff. We can come and hang out with each other and don't have to have our masks on if we're outside. I'm going to keep my mask on.
Me too. When I meet you for the first time, I'm going to be wearing. No, my mask is staying on. I got vaccinated.
Yeah, so look, here's the thing. Well, I just don't understand.
But Keltner, you can put yourself. You remember when you were young and dumb. You remember when you were young and I mean, whatever. There are people that grew up in sanctified. I'm just saying. You know the travesty of it because ultimately you said it before. An hour ago, you just said, "Listen, at the end of the day, why would you want to walk away from music if you love it that much just because you don't want to get a vaccine?" That's what those people are going to have to decide if they want to do, if they want to stay in music, because I
can't even fathom that kind of thinking. I don't understand it at all. Look, and if you're a non-believer, if you're a non-believer, okay, I can maybe understand because you just have trouble believing in anything.
Right.
But if you're a believer, if you believe in God, why can't you understand that in your cries for help with this horrible thing that has taken over 1 million lives,
right.
He's given us this vaccine. He's given us great minds to create these things. And he's done that all along. I could have died of polio as a child.
Oh, I'm with you 100%.
But you know what I'm saying? So
totally,
come on.
dude. Yeah, that's a great point.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
get yourself vaccinated, and you'll be able to open up and have a life again. And the more that gets vaccinated, the more we'll be able to gather together at the Hollywood Bowl for the great L.A. Philharmonic or the Staples Center or wherever it is for our favorite rock band. Come on. Anyway.
It's so good to hear you. Thank you for dropping so much knowledge and spiritual stuff. I love you, Keltner.
Same back. Who are you again? Jake.
I was waiting for you to figure it out who it was.
43-year-old man. You just said it yourself. That explains everything to me.
Yeah.
That's why you're so sweet and naive. You're 43 years old.
That's my mic. That honestly, Keltner, we're more similar than you even know, man.
I know.
Yeah, and you know what? Bless you and your family. And I was hoping you could. I'll call you later or tomorrow, or whatever. But I really want to speak to Charlie Watts.
Well, Charlie shouldn't be that difficult.
Just let me know if it's. I'll call you. I don't want to do this right now. It's just It's a long time coming, and he's one of the cats. And so, if you can help me out.
You've never talked to Charlie.
Never.
I thought you had talked with Charlie.
No, you gave me his publicist or his manager, but nothing materialized. And I'm like, I just got to.
Okay, yeah. and you've never talked with Ringo either.
No, I need some. I need those cats, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll work on that for you.
Love you, man.
I'll work on it. I can't guarantee it, but I'll work.
Well, no, I mean, one for two ain't bad.
Charlie should be a given because he's a jazz guy.
Yeah, but
poor Ringo gets inundated.
But Keltner, you know that this is not your garden variety thing.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So don't worry about it. I'll
all right, man.
I'll see what I can do.
Love to your wife, man. You're blessed to have strong women. I got 2 daughters and beautiful mom. It's nice to have strong women keeping you accountable, man.
Amen.
All right. Later on, dude.
Okay, bro. Love
Peace.
you.
Late. Well, that's it. Cosmic Day on the Jake Feinberg Show. We will get by. Until next time. Peace.